Hey guys, shit. Hey guys, welcome to Box Office Addict, my weekly live stream podcast, where I break down the weekend numbers and have a freeform discussion with the chat. As always, I am Pat, joined by my moderator and I guess chat co-host Bathory. Box Office Addict 75. 75 episodes. I guess this is a milestone then. Until we get to 80. And as we slowly get to 100. I have definitely been dragging it out. We'd be at many more episodes right now if I didn't take like that month-long break with Box Office Addict. But whatever. All right, man, there's almost too much to talk about with Captain Marvel. I still have yet to make my Captain Marvel video, which I am planning on doing here at some point really soon. Let me just make sure. I was making sure the audio was working. Basically, as a follow-up to last weekend, let's follow up what happened last weekend. A lot of people were saying Captain Marvel was going to be a bomb or a disappointment, that it wouldn't open well. It opened up very high at 153 million. So then the argument became that Captain Marvel was going to have a huge drop-off, that it was going to drop at 70%. Now, I kept saying, and I have said this, and I've been quoted as saying such, 55% drop was my guess, if any of you remember last weekend. It dropped 55%, so I was right with my theory. I assumed it would have the average drop for an MCU movie. They usually drop about 53 to 56%, just because I think there's too much hype for Captain Marvel, that even if people are kind of mixed on it, which I get, I think people are mixed on the movie, it's still going to make money. Just because there's too many people talking about it. So Captain Marvel, in its second weekend, has made $67 million, basically $68 million because it's at 67.9. So it's a confirmed success. I would say $1 billion is a lock at this point. And I'm not even trying to be like, look, I was right. Like, I don't really give a shit. I wish this movie wasn't making as much money. I'm not a fan of Brie Larson or this movie or what they've done to market it. I didn't like how they played this game to build the movie up, but it is what it is. The movie has now made 760 million worldwide, so it's a certified hit at this point, and profits are being made now. Let me get the background up for you guys. Oh, you're not just looking at nothingness. Hey Pat, we were right on the drop, but it'll still break 101 billion. Yeah, we were right on the drop. I think we were, yeah. Which I'm usually wrong. I'm usually wrong like 90% of the time, so it was good. I kind of fucked up today. I didn't know I was supposed to work today. My boss told me I had today off. And I was like, okay, cool. And then just like an hour ago, I found out that I was actually scheduled to work this morning. Because I had a lot of stuff to deal with. I had to deal with the car payment. And getting furniture moved here, and then I had to deal with my electric bill, and then I had to get stuff organized, the money. Plus, I'm going to a concert tonight. I'm going to go see the Pixies and Weezer, and I had no idea I was working, so I had to call my boss and be like, dude, I'm fucking sorry. That's a big thing at our job, no call, no show. If you don't call, they get really mad, but I did call. So that kind of freaked me out today. I should have made money today, so hopefully you guys can make up for that and give me some fucking money, because I didn't make money. Dontron, I really liked Lawson and Community, so it seemed like a writing issue. I've liked Brie Larson in the past. I like her in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I like her in the movie Room. I haven't hated everything Brie Larson's done as an actress. I don't like her as a person, her public persona. I think it's pretty awful and cringy. I disagree that Guardians of the Galaxy is the only part of the MCU that's actually interesting or entertaining, but I would agree with you that it has some of the most energy and creativity going on in the MCU. I mean, I still lean towards like Captain America's movies being really good lately, and anything the Russo brothers have done, and I really like Winter Soldier, and although that era is kind of coming to an end, so you might have a point that Guardians is the only thing remaining that has any interest. Also, Google announced that it will enter the game console industry with a new streaming platform instead of a game console. So what are they going to be streaming that you play games? It's going to be like Steam? Like, if they're gonna have a server, you go and you buy game. What does that mean? That absolutely means that Dave Bautista isn't leaving the MCU. I don't know what happened to Adam Warlock. Maybe it's just a character they don't think has mainstream appeal. I was curious about that too. I really like Adam Warlock, but he's definitely not going to be involved with Infinity War, even though he's a significant part of the comic book. Alita. Man, everyone's really trying to build Alita up in the wake of Captain Marvel. It's weird. I don't know why everyone's chose Alita as the film to champion. This is a weird narrative with this fucking movie. Like, everyone hated Brie Larson in the comments, and then it became the movie will get bad reviews and bomb. Then it became the theaters are empty. Disney bought all the tickets, which, by the way, isn't illegal. It isn't illegal for Disney to buy tickets. But then it was like Disney bought all the... No, Nocturnal Animals has terrific editing and cinematography. I mean, the editing is maybe more questionable, but the cinematography is mwah. It's wonderful. So then that became the argument. Then the movie got, you know, Marvel reviews. It got like 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. Then it opened big. Then it was like, okay, now it's going to drop off. This is all fake. Now it's not dropping. Now the thing is that Alita's great, and everyone hates Alita, even though that's the great movie, and Captain Marvel's getting all the money that Alita deserved. This narrative keeps changing. I don't know if it's backpedaling, because I want to give people the benefit of the doubt, because they can't accept that Captain Marvel's successful and it's bothering them. Because this isn't like being in denial. This is like the opposite of Ghostbusters, where that movie did bomb and people were trying to act like it didn't, and they were trying to spin that. Now it's like this movie's clearly a hit and people are trying to spin how it's not a hit, even though it's going to make $1 billion. I don't quite understand. I mean, I get it. If you have a problem with Brie Larson in the movie and you're upset where the MCU's going, you have every right to complain about that. That's completely valid. But to act like the movie isn't making money is weird. That's just denial. That's a very odd thing. We would have loved Alita either way. Well, who's we, by the way? Because nobody's going to see Alita. It is backpedaling. They all laid their chips down and said, this movie's gonna bomb. Everyone's gonna hate it. It's gonna be another Last Jedi. And then it didn't turn out that way. And then they're like, okay, well, Disney bought the tickets and paid off the critics. And then that narrative's starting to fall apart. And so now it's like, where are we at? I mean, everyone keeps sending me links to videos where people are breaking down how the money isn't really there real. And it's like, I did the research on it. It's like, no, dude, it's like, this is just, I don't want to say it's a conspiracy theory. You guys are throwing a lot of questions. You want me to talk about James Gunn, you want me to talk about Captain Marvel, and you want me to talk about Funny People, the Judd Apatow movie? I mean, we got to pick one, people. Yeah, because I don't think Alita's the great movie that should be championed. I think the sad thing is that both films are sadly very mediocre. And it's kind of just a crappy time at the movies right now. There's really nothing that great that's out right now that I can seem to find. Nothing on this list here is any movie that I have any interest in, unless I had to see it for a review. Alita easily has the best character development I've ever seen in a movie. Really? Are you shitposting? You have to be shitposting that Alita has the best character development you've ever seen in any movie ever. How many movies have you seen, man? Like 3? I mean, you could make an argument that Nocturnal Animals has some poor editing choices. I don't think that's bad, but to say the cinematography is bad is weird, because it's not. I mean, it's not like Academy Award winning cinematography, but it's not, that guy, Tom Ford, I think, he made that film before that. What was it called? A Serious Man? He's the fashion designer. He has a great eye. He knows how to shoot a movie. Nocturnal Animals actually looks pretty good. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about it is Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, Michael Shannon's performance, and the cinematography of those scenes in particular, stuff that's in the book. I can't see somebody criticizing the editing, though. I can get that. Like, if you had a problem with the editing. Poor thing. God, Adam Wingard. When won't Hollywood just let that hack go? I mean, what the fuck? James Gunn rehired shit, man. That's a... You know, it almost feels inevitable. It almost felt like it was certain that it was going to happen, yet I'm still kind of in, like, shock that it happened. Because the thing was, why did they go through all this drama? Why fire him over the Mike Chernovic thing on Twitter? Why fire him, have all this drama, then he goes off to do Suicide Squad 2, and now you're bringing him back, but now he gets to make Suicide Squad 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy 3? So all Marvel really did was give James Gunn an opportunity to go make more money, and then now DC has him in their pocket too? I mean, what the fuck was Disney thinking with? Because if they were just going to go back and rehire him, why did you fire him in the first place? Like, this is just bizarre. That's the only reason I thought they would never hire him back, because just the publicity of it, that you fired him, was so shocking and a big deal that to rehire him would be silly, because then you would have to be like, whoops. You know, it's like if Phil Lord and Chris Miller just magically came back onto Solo. But now James Gunn's back. I mean, it's so weird. He's been talking about remaking I Saw the Devil for a while now. Which, it's funny, a few years ago I'd have been into that when I saw his first movie. What's the fucking name of that movie? I remember The Guest. But his first movie, I saw that in the theater. You're Next. And I really liked it, and I thought he was going to end up... He kind of went down a Ty West thing, where it's like I was excited about this new director, and then... How many people do you think will walk away from the MCU after Endgame? I don't know. That's the question, isn't it? That's a really good question. I never... Yeah, I thought they'd have Taika Waititi do it, or they would go get someone like Edgar Wright or Joe Cornish to go direct the next Guardians film. It is odd they went back and hired him, like, only because of just the narrative and where things were going, and that they waited so long. Weird. I'm assuming they just didn't want to deal with all the actors having trouble. Dave Bautista was being outspoken about it. Bad business decision by Disney. Keep in mind the Fox deal was happening at the same time. I think they fired him to look good now that the Fox deal is over his back. Just a PR stunt, basically. I don't think that's what it was at all. I think because of the timing that the Chernovic thing happened and they fired him. Because if they were already planning to fire James Gunn and bring him back as a PR move, they would have known that those things were going to happen. They didn't know any of that was going to happen. I think that's just a coincidence. I don't think it was a PR stunt at all. I think they thought this is really controversial. He's being tied to this thing, because this is an era where they just fire people if you get any controversy around you. I mean, that's what's been happening. Roseanne loses her show. It's the biggest show on TV. Louis C.K. loses everything. As soon as they heard anything associated with, like, oh, pedophilia, they fired him. I don't think it had anything to do with PR. Then I think months went by, and they saw that people didn't really turn on James Gunn, the general public. This is like the Kevin Hart thing. And then I think Disney thought, well, shit, that really had no impact, so let's just bring him back and save ourselves some time, and he's getting hired to do other things. Because I don't know why it would help them in the Fox deal to have him go work with Warner Brothers, who owns Suicide Squad. That doesn't make much sense to me. I think there was a sense that he might be able to come back, but I don't think it's what you think. I don't think it was a PR move. I think it was just a quick decision that they didn't think out. And maybe it benefited them. Maybe it was serendipitous with the Fox merger, but... Alita is like a 5 and Captain Marvel's a 4. I guess value character development a lot. I guess I value character development a lot. So, yeah, James Gunn's back. I mean, what the fuck? They pulled that trigger and then they got it back. So, James Gunn is now back on Guardians of the Galaxy 3, so everything is back in place. Also, I think maybe they were thinking, you know, we don't have a lot of guys. You know, once, because the Russos are leaving. And we don't know how much longer Kevin Feige is going to be around. And we're losing a lot of our big names, so they probably thought, fuck, why are we getting rid of the Guardians of the Galaxy guy? Because he's possibly someone to direct an Avengers movie. I would think James Gunn is very high on the list of directors they'd want to give an Avengers movie to, because he can really handle the scale And I'd even say Infinity War took a lot. I'm just a little tired. I got that morning sounding voice. But I think what they thought about was well shit, we don't really have that many directors, really. I mean, you have Ryan Coogler with Black Panther, and then you have Taika Waititi now. But they, once they lose the Russos, so maybe I think maybe in their head they thought, okay, well, if we bring James Gunn back in, he could possibly do the next run of Avengers films. And I think that's their thinking. Because really, he added the cosmic space giant elements that are so prominent in Infinity War. And he even added dialogue and scenes like that. So I think in their head, because really, I think the Guardians are going to have to be a big centerpiece of the future Avengers films. Because if we're not going to have any more Iron Man and Captain America, you really got to lean, I think, on Star-Lord. And so I think that's probably, it was just a business thing. Like, well, shit, if we get James Gunn in, we at least have Guardians 3, and then he could possibly direct an Avengers movie. I like Ethan too. That is a problem I have with Ethan. I mean, I was on a live stream with Ethan, and I thought he got that way, where he got a little too ranty on SJW stuff and saying that they don't care about money and how the fall of Marvel was coming, and yet he was saying that he liked Black Panther and Wonder Woman, which are two movies I think are really bad. And he was like, he jumped on me when I pointed out that I thought Black Panther was perpetuated by the media to become a bigger hit than it probably would have been otherwise. And then he talked about, no, it just did well because it was a fantasy movie that people... I was like, dude, that's ridiculous. That movie totally made money because of the cultural relevance that they added to it. But he went on a rant about SJWs not caring about money. I don't agree with that at all. I think they're very greedy people. I think that's intrinsic to SJWs, is that they all want to be rich and they feel entitled to that money. And I'm a fan of Ethan Van Sciver, let me make that very clear. But yeah, his whole attitude about, like, James Gunn made pedophile jokes, thus he's a pedophile, and Disney supports this, and then now he's mad that they hired him back, because he has to be consistent. It's like the thing with Captain Marvel. Once you go down that rabbit hole, you can't get on, you can't do a live stream or make a video and say, well, hey, I was wrong. You have to keep going down that rabbit hole. And so I don't know what's going on with Ethan. I think he probably is just liking his popularity, that he has so many subscribers and fans now, and he's doing live streams and all that stuff. I mean, I think maybe he just knows his audience. His audience wants him to complain about Captain Marvel. His audience wants him to complain about James Gunn being rehired, because James Gunn is the enemy, because James Gunn is very outspoken politically on Twitter. And I pointed that out in my James Gunn live stream I did when he first got fired. So I don't know. Ethan gets a little emotional about it. He starts kind of getting in a rant, and he you see, I left that stuff behind, with the patriarchy. And but that's the thing on YouTube. I mean, you find your audience and you stick with it. So he's, in many ways, he's just smarter than I am, really. I would get much more attention on this channel if I was just on here complaining about Captain Marvel. He wasn't just saying SJWs in comic books, though. He was saying SJWs in general, and he was relating it to SJWs in comic books. He was saying what he went through, which I think was his bias, was he had dealt with that stuff in the comic book industry, but he was saying in a general way that SJWs don't care about money at all. And I don't think he was right. I think that was a generalization. I think he might be right in the comic book sense, but he wasn't just talking about that. He was talking about in all facets. And that's where I disagreed with him. I didn't argue with him on that point, though, because the High Council is his show with World Class Bullshitters, so I'm not going to sit in there and argue with the guy. It was very nice of them to even have me on, but I don't agree that SJWs don't care about money in general. Also, socialists, to say socialists don't care about money, I think is just wrong. I think socialists very much care about money. I think they just don't understand economics and how money is made, and I don't think they want to work hard for it. I think they definitely care about money. I think everybody cares about money to some degree, or power, and money gives you power. I've met a lot of people in my life that say I don't fear death, and I always laugh because I know they're full of shit, because if you don't fear death, then you don't value life. And I don't mean that you're scared of death or that you're not willing to face it. I get that. But the idea that, like, death is, like, it's part of being human is the oncoming fear of death. And then people say, I don't care about money. It's like, well, you're probably saying that because you're a failure. Like, what? There's nothing, like, it's kind of one of these ridiculous things people say, but I don't put much stock into it. Thank you for liking the Robin video, Balls Monkey. I like your name. It's funny because I was going to do a bunch of videos and then I just said, fuck, I want to talk about Robin. Yeah, it's a power thing. I agree. Money gives you power. If money wasn't the way you got power, I don't think money would be important. But if you have money, you can get women, you can get the things you want, and you get power. And power is something that most people crave. For very good reason, too. Power is a good thing, a good feeling. As Gordon Gekko said, though, greed is good. Greed's good because it creates competition, and innovation because greedy people usually... No, I agree. Ethan has been through some bullshit. I totally agree, and I think that's where he's getting that point of view from. I agree with you on that. I just think he needs to think sometimes that maybe it's not everything. You know, the fact that we're even still getting the SJW thing tossed around in 2019. You know, I was kind of hoping we'd move on from that pejorative. But there's still that lingering thing of, like, soy boy, beta cuck, and all that stuff. Yeah, that might be a new format I'm going to do, is videos like that, where it's me on a webcam, or the avatar, and I just kind of sync up images and memes to what I'm talking about. It's very easy to edit, even though I still think the cuts work for the most part. And it's just kind of a rant, because I was sitting there with my fiance ranting about Robins and how they're not used in the movies. And she's like, God, will you shut the fuck up? You've been talking about this for 15 minutes. And I go, shit, this should just be videos, because I'm just annoying her because she doesn't give a shit. Or I'm ranting about Superman. I mean, I know, I just think we gotta figure out the SJW term. I think is gonna be bad, because what the left has done in the culture war is spun SJW now. They've made it a defense thing where it's like, oh, well, people say SJW. They've really made cuck and SJW, and I even get it on my videos when I say cuck or SJW. You'll always get those comments and responses that you're still using that term in a non-ironic way. What's wrong with you? And you're seeing this more and more, because now that the left is aware of SJW and what it means, they're trying to spin it into a positive now, or use it as a mocking. I think we lost the culture war. I think the idea was that we had won the culture war, especially in the election cycle. And I think that people thought that we were winning with where things were going. I think the opposite's happened. I'm now looking at it. I was talking to Blood Money about it one time. I was like, you know, I think the left's winning. I think Me Too gave them so much power. I think the fact that we had no impact on Captain Marvel. I think the 2020 election's very scary. I think a lot of people aren't prepared for how scary that election's going to be. I'm worried. I think they just radicalized more people to their ways. Yeah, it is like when the left calls people Nazis, which is outdated and stupid. I don't think saying SJW is stupid. I just think it's simplistic. And it's been around so long now that I'm over it. And it would be nice to have new slangs, or at least the conversation getting a little bit more nuanced at this point. But I think I think we've lost the culture war. I mean, in my eyes, I think it was always we were always motherfuckers ice skating uphill. But I don't think we have yeah, I think they won. I think they're going to dominate the politics of the next decade. I think the movie industry's exposed itself for what it is. I know I kind of have a fatalistic point with it, but I do feel it in the air. It feels like it doesn't mean that the youth isn't lost. I still think a lot of young men and women in their teenagers, early 20s, are more libertarian. But I think the people that are coming up into power right now, I'm very worried about where things are going. For me. Have a good box office act, everybody. I'll listen to you guys later. Since it's dinner time at Paris. Pat, is there a way? I'm sorry. I don't even like saying culture war. I mean, I used to make fun of people for saying that. Like, we're in the cultural war. I used to make fun of Dave Cullen. I mean, I think culture war's funny, too. Is there a way these videos could be available in a podcast form on iTunes? Yeah, there could be, for sure. I could definitely take the audio from these and upload them in different places. I think it's punk to be conservative in today's climate. I think back in the 80s and 90s, no. I think today to truly be counterculture and punk rock is to be a conservative. I mean, if you really want to be hardcore, you tell people you love guns and you love America and you like the wall. Like, that's punk to me. Thank you so much for that money. It's wonderful I have a fan in Paris. I mean, I know you guys don't like hearing me talk this way. I don't, you know, it's just that's one reason I kind of stopped doing politics is because I think we lost. And I think everyone on YouTube especially is clinging on to their audience and thinking that we have a chance. But I think the shift already happened at some point. I don't even know when it happened. It's not like I can fine tune it and be like, this is exactly what happened. But maybe we had too much sway and we didn't use it right. Maybe we used our power too negatively. I don't know. Maybe we just can't beat the media. The media has so much influence and they're all leaning one way. Maybe we can't win until that stuff dies off more. I don't know, because YouTube, while still being a dominant platform, we still haven't had that total transition yet. We need that transition to happen. Oh yeah, Joey Ramone was, yeah, of course. A lot of my favorite people, artists and writers, are conservative, and I think a lot of people are lean more conservative than they'd admit. Like a Larry David, the Seinfeld guy. You know, I think he's pretty conservative. He just would never say it. A lot of times you hear people talk about stuff, and you're like, yeah, they have a lot of conservative viewpoints. But if you're in Hollywood, you can't just go there. Thank you, Mister. Once socialism gets its foothold in, it never goes away. Useful idiots never blame socialism for their problems. The solution to everything is more socialism. 40 characters left, so rock on, Pat. I mean, yeah, fuck socialism. No question. I mean, what do you want, Alex? I'm still libertarian. I still hate socialism. I don't like SJWs and all that. But this isn't a political channel anymore. It's a movie channel. I just talk about movies. I mean, I might make a political comment here or there, but I'm not a political channel. Those other channels, they're political channels, so they should talk about that stuff because that's their content. But back when I was a political channel, I only had like 2,000 subscribers, so if there's any of those people left, it's like, I don't know, it didn't get big. Even my Last Jedi videos, I didn't make them political. That I remember them being just critiques. I'm more with Mahler on it, you know, like don't make your stuff political because then you could fall into propaganda. David Stewart talks about that too, and I don't want to be behind propaganda. I don't want to be like a Michael Moore, you know. I don't want to go down that route. You know, I still hate that shit. I hate Bill Maher. I hate MSNBC. I hate Rachel Maddow. I hate the New York Times. It just was spending so much energy. It was so much negative energy getting into those arguments with people and getting pissed off and people just not listening to you. And that just got to the point where it just got, you know, and we were just having the same conversations. It was a circle. It was the same arguments, the same things to get mad about, the same economic conversations. And I'm not saying those conversations aren't important. I just got tired of repeating myself, you know. And I was like, well, am I going to spend time being pissed off or am I going to spend time being happy? Because I'm happy talking about movies. And I'm happier since then. It's hard to get subs on YouTube, man. It is. I'm not going to act like it's some... There's ways to do it, but it's not easy. It's very tough. I respect anybody who has over 1,000 subscribers because I know how much work it takes. I've been on YouTube since I was like 15. I've been on YouTube for over a decade. I mean, I just, you know, I said all I needed to say, I guess. There's hundreds of hours of content of me bitching about these things. There's live streams. Um, you know, I think I made my stamp, and that's where I'm at. Yeah, Bill Maher is an asshole. Straight up. Do you believe in the YouTube algorithm? To a point, yes. Because I've used it, understanding the algorithm to get views on my channel. For sure, the more popular you get, the more backlash and hate you're going to get. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's part of being on the internet, though. You know? Once you become an e-celeb, you open yourself up more to, you know, you lose a lot of anonymity. And then people start going after you in very personal ways, and you have to be able to take it. And hopefully your content's good enough and your audience likes you enough that it doesn't matter if people start ripping you apart. It's a tough balancing act, man. To become a big YouTube channel, I think, is easier than sustaining a popular YouTube channel. I think a lot of people think, well, once I get big, I'll be fine. It's like, dude, your channel could be dead in 6 months. I've had so many highs and lows. You have to do it very right. You have to be very precise and plan out what you're doing. I don't think it's black and white. I mean, I don't like how divided the country is. I don't like that we're fighting so much, and that there's hostility, and that we people are at extremes now. You're extreme left or extreme right now. I mean, that's become really tiresome. I mean, it's been I mean, it's been a long 2 years. I'll say that, since the election. It's been a long 2 years. Maybe not time-wise, maybe it felt like it was fast, but a lot's fucking happened. Sean and Jen, yeah. I mean, fuck all those H-Bomber guy. They can all suck a cock. I hate all that shit. Fuck them. I mean, hey, I'm with you guys. I think Jay watches a lot of foreign films. I just don't think they review foreign films. As for animated films, I don't know. I don't know if they've seen any, and I don't know if they go see animated films. That's a good question, because they really don't talk about them ever. Very rarely, even in the general on their content, they don't talk about animated films. So I don't know if they're just not a fan. I would love to see a review on like Akira or something like that. I think that would be a lot of fun. But if that's not what they want to talk about, that's fine. I would like if they talked about foreign films more, though. I feel like they're a channel that could really get some foreign films more attention. Oh yeah, fuck H-Bomber guy. He looks like ass cheeks. Oh, I mean, I'll say that about H-Bomber guy. H-Bomber guy's terrific editor. His editing's great, but that doesn't mean shit to me. His content's garbage. Good editor, though, for sure. He knows how to use Adobe, I mean, if that's what he's using. No, I'm not going to review Unplanned. No plans to review Unplanned. Oh, yeah, he's just not funny. I mean, that's his biggest issue, is he's trying to be funny, and he just doesn't have a good sense of humor or comedic acumen. That's always been my issue with H-Bomber guy. I actually think his videos are very well made, and I like the idea behind his videos. But he has no charisma whatsoever. I mean, his videos would be better if somebody else was in them. And I would like to get to a point where him and Mahler end up on a live stream together and you know, talk shit out, but those YouTubers are always too scared to go into a live stream like that. Yeah, no, great editor, shitty content, which is most big YouTubers like that, video essayists. I find, yeah, I like his Sherlock video, but they usually are terrific editors, so then people go, this is great content because it's really well edited. And then they don't, and then their content's just generic bullshit. And it's subjectivity trying to mask itself as objectivity. And it's deceptive because they're a good editor. They know how to deceive and manipulate people who don't see those things. I've talked about Akira a bunch of times on this channel. The guy that I've been having issues with is that Jack Saint guy. He's becoming really popular. No, that's actually not when Mahler got big. Mahler got big because of the Last Jedi videos. When he made those H-Bomber guy videos, he still only had about 2,000 subscribers. That did not blow up his channel at all. He got some attention on Twitter. It wasn't until the Last Jedi rage that his channel blew up. Because I watched Mahler back when he did those H-Bomber guy videos, and he didn't have a big sub count. And that might have something to do with that was like 7-part fucking series, and you know, on the H-Bomber guy. I mean, that might be. Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing with a lot of YouTubers. They're never going to show up on a live stream or back up their content unless it's to perpetuate their own ego. Completely. I mean, I'll go on anyone's live stream, even if I end up looking like a fucking idiot. I'll go on someone's live stream and talk to them. I don't care. I'm totally up with that. But yeah, Mahler completely. All of his success comes from The Last Jedi, no question. Not that he wasn't making good content before that, because he was. He was just one of those underrated channels where the content was good, but people weren't watching it. Yeah, it is the opposite, where Captain Marvel's actually making money. I could see that. Hey, buddy. Good to see you, Ava. Oh, so funny people. Not very funny people. Miss chatting with you, too. I mean, I'm a big Adam Carolla fan. Let me make that clear. It's like Lindsay Ellis. Like, I want to hate her because her politics are bad and she always throws in her videos, but her videos are well made and they're good. She makes good videos. I just don't like her, although she seemed like she was a cool chick before, back in the day. Did not responding to Mahler ever affect H-Bomber guy? I don't think it affected him at all, no. I mean, I've never been asked back on the High Council. I remember Jeff on World Class Bullshitter said he wanted to bring me on for a one-on-one video sometime to talk about the Clone Wars, Andy Tartakovsky shorts. And then Geeks and Gamers, he said I could come on sometime. I just didn't really follow up on that, really. Pi, yeah, that's one of 2 good Darren Aronofsky movies. I can't wait to have you debate Wolf on how Gladiator said. Does Wolf like Gladiator? Dishonored Wolf, he likes Gladiator? That's weird. I mean, you know, it's weird for my life. The Gladiator thing's very weird because in my whole life, all of my friends hated Gladiator. Like, I was always confused about the Gladiator. I think it's scheduling, too. It's like Mahler, me and him have talked about being on a live stream. But you got to think, there's 1,000 people that want to be on those live streams. You know, I'm just one guy. It's not like, I mean, it's tough to arrange those things. You know, it's not like I could be on every High Council. That's all. I would go back on. I mean, I don't know how that I thought that last one, I didn't think it went that great. It was very mixed. Some people liked it, some people didn't like it. I don't know how much of that had to do with me. Wolf loves Gladiator. Yeah, the word of Wolf. But it's just weird for me because Gladiator, you know, it came out and it made a bunch of money, and critics weren't even that big on it. It had like Braveheart reviews. I think it has like 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, 64 on Metacritic. It's not this like critically acclaimed masterpiece, but people love it. Gladiator's on the IMDb top 250. It won Best Picture. But I remember always talking to my friends. We all hated it. We all used to make fun of it and how badly made it was and how poorly written it is. And and then I knew other people who thought it was one of the greatest films ever made, and that seemed to be the general reception to it. But for years, me and my film buff friends would always shit on Gladiator, so I thought that's how people felt about Gladiator, and a lot of Ridley Scott movies. Even, you know, Red Letter Media, there's that time Jay's like, are you saying Ridley Scott's a hack? Like George Lucas and only has like 3 good movies? But now I'm finding out people still love Gladiator. I I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought we'd all kind of moved on and accepted Gladiator was like a really dumb movie that was overrated and badly made. But if I talk to Wolf about it, though, I'm gonna have to rewatch it. I haven't watched Gladiator in years. I love Fight Club. And it was funny, it was even a period I stopped liking Fight Club. And then I fell in love with it again in a new way. Because I loved it as a teenager. And then I kind of thought it was overrated and I had issues with it. And then I came back around to thinking like, oh wow, I missed the satire and what this movie's actually about. Because you go from liking Tyler Durden when you're a teenager to now I hate Tyler Durden, and I realize that's the point. And there was an argument for years that Fincher couldn't do satire. He makes Project Mayhem and Tyler Durden too appealing. But I think after Gone Girl, that really sets up like, no, he knew what he was doing with Fight Club. And what's wrong with him making it entertaining? I would defend Gladiator. I mean, I don't think Gladiator's like the worst movie ever made. Let me make that clear. Gladiator like has some good filmmaking and things about, like, Russell Crowe's good in the movie. That's not a bad performance. I'm not acting like everything about Gladiator's bad. I just think it's a very overrated movie that didn't deserve Best Picture and is really mediocre, and how some people think of it as one of the greatest films of all time, I don't agree with. And I think a lot of that has to do with this idea that Ridley Scott's a genius and one of the great directors, and people give that movie a pass when it really has a shoddy screenplay. I mean, that's always been my issue with it. I feel like the script's always been pretty bad to Gladiator. Despite, yeah, being a well-made movie. I mean, it is really well-made. That can't be denied. And it was innovative. I mean, you see a lot of films in the 2000s, they started to look like Gladiator. And same thing with Minority Report by Spielberg. I think in many ways that invented the modern look of the blockbuster. J.J. Abrams films all look like Minority Report. I definitely think David Fincher is one of the greatest directors of all time. Dion, I think was a little drunk or something. I don't know. Dion is in a mood that night. I love Dion though, so I'm not. American Gangster's okay. That's one of Ridley Scott's better movies. American Gangster's an alright film. It was a disappointment, I'll say that. I remember being really hyped for that movie. The trailer was awesome. Steve Zalian's writing the screenplay. You got Denzel and Russell Crowe. It looks great. And then you go see it, and it's just kind of a generic crime thriller. It's good, but it's adequate good. It's not... It's just like, oh, I've seen this movie 1,000 times. There's cool scenes, though, like when he just goes up and shoots the guy in the head. I think it's Idris Elba he shoots. He just goes up and shoots the guy. Those are good scenes, though. I just think it was a chemistry thing. I think we were all off on that High Council. I think, like, they weren't really getting my humor. And I'm not saying it's because it was great. I just don't think it meshed with their humor. I don't think they were getting my humor wasn't meshing with them. I think Dion was doing his own thing. I just think we were having a hard time getting chemistry on that episode. I don't think it was anybody's fault. And we didn't really have anything to talk about. There was no news, and I remember that. No, but I mean visually Minority Report. If you go back and look at Minority Report cinematography and the way it looks like the modern blockbuster. And a lot of people are going to credit that to The Matrix, but I actually think the Matrix thing wore off a little bit outside of special effects. I think a lot of the aesthetics of Minority Report have remained, though, all these years later. Ethan was in a bad mood, or he just was sulking. It was just a weird thing. We weren't all hitting. I thought we were starting off really good. Paul Thomas Anderson, I love the first half of his career. Don't like the second half. Haven't liked any Paul Thomas Anderson films in years. I like him, though. I don't think High Council's boring. It's just like any live streamer show, you know? There's some episodes of Box Office Addict that are really good, and then there's other ones that are crap. I mean, it's how it is. When you make that many episodes, you're eventually going to have some that aren't as good. Because when I was going to the High Council, I thought that we were going to talk about YouTube and The Last Jedi and how it affected all of our channels and what we were doing with that and all that stuff. I didn't really go in wanting to talk about the other stuff, and I didn't think we would get into an argument about if George Lucas is a genius or not. That stuff was all very odd to me. What I enjoyed about it was when we talked about Get Out I like the second half where we started talking about our channels. And I got to talk in particular to Jeff. I really like Jeff, the High Council guy. That's the one I like the most out of any of those guys. I really like that guy a lot. I think he's a really good dude. And he lives over in fucking Cincinnati. He's only 2 hours away from me. I would love to hang out with that guy. I think him going into the store and looking at the Star Wars toys back after Last Jedi came out, I think that's one of the best YouTube videos in the last few years. I think because him actually being a toy collector and actually walking in and that stuff, it was such a... I don't know, there was something about it that was really nice. Why does your movie Sucks and Ralph the Movie Maker love Phantom Thread so much? Because they love any movie like that. Like just like they love Suspiria, even though Jay loved it too. Or they both loved Roma. If it's an artsy film that's quiet and kind of doesn't do too much in its screenplay, and it's a director that they like, they typically give it a pass. Even though... Yeah, I know Jeff is world-class, but yeah, Jeff's great. I have nothing but love for Jeff. I think Jeff's a good dude. But I don't know. I've asked that question myself. I feel like a lot of the time Ralph and Adam on your movie Sucks just like these movies, and I'm just sitting there confused. Like, why the fuck do you guys like these movies? I feel like they think they're supposed to like them, or it's in their taste, but then... I don't know. I just disagree with them so much on movies like that. I mean, I'm the one out here saying Rome. I don't think Roma's very good at all. I was against Toy Story 4. But you know what happened? I will say this. I watched those short films with a friend, the Toy Story shorts. And I started, me and him had a conversation, and we were like, maybe Toy Story, these characters just work. Maybe you can just put them in any situation and they work. Yeah, let me make this clear. I like Ralph and I like Adam. I don't want to act like I dislike their content. I just don't agree with them a lot of the time. I'm not against... I think they make good content. But Toy Story, I said that to my friend, this was like 2 or 3 years ago, because we were both very against Toy Story 4 because the finality of Toy Story 3 was so perfect. Then we said, we watched those shorts and we loved them, and I said, yeah, maybe these characters, maybe just Rex and Buzz and Woody just work. Maybe you can just keep putting them in situations. The foundation's too strong to fuck up Toy Story. And then I saw the trailer for Toy Story 4, and it has me scared. It does look a little Finding Dory. It does look a little Incredibles 2, but I still think, and I'm not how much I feel about the Forky character, but it does look like they're repeating themselves again. And that is the problem. They did repeat themselves with Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3 was basically Toy Story 2. But Toy Story 4 it is a road movie, which is kind of what Toy Story 2 was, with the Buzz in them. But it looks good to me. I like how emotional it looks with Woody. I like that Woody's kind of off on his own separate little journey. Yeah, I watch EFAP. I think Toy Story 4 looks good. I am scared though that the sequels to Pixar movies have been really bothering me. No, they were gonna die in the incinerator. Which in retrospect, that might have been the better choice. They have been repeating the first movie. Yeah, I don't know what happened with Rian Johnson. I agree, Brick's terrific. I love Brick, and then everything he's done after that's just been diminishing returns. Especially from a writing standpoint. He's really lost me. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to act like I watch all of EFAP. There's like 8-hour episodes. I don't sit through that shit. But I watch it, yeah. I usually skip around and watch the parts I want to watch. I mainly listen to that from Mahler. Sometimes I wish Mahler was just on there by himself. I don't really like when he has like 5 people on there. I think they kind of take away from him. But Toy Story, I mean, I don't know. I like the Toy Story trilogy. Toy Story 2 is probably my favorite. I think the first Toy Story is one of the most important films ever made. I think it's the Star Wars of animation, in the fact that after it came out, everything was changed. It changed everything. People don't get this about the Toy Story thing, seeing it in the theater then. It really was mind-blowing. I saw Toy Story in the theater when it came out. It was mind-blowing. I mean, that's all everybody talked about when they came out of the movie was like, can you believe they made that movie, man? Because it was the angles. See, in 2D animation, camera movement doesn't always look smooth. That's why I love 2Ds, because it's very specific. It's like how comic books are specific. You have to do it in a certain way. But what they did that was so brilliant, what John Lasseter did with Toy Story, was like the road sequence at the end, and the way the camera's spinning around. That was genius. That was the genius of Toy Story. It changed everything, because then once people saw that an animated film could have the camera angles and even the backgrounds, the road and all that, look closer to a realistic movie, that's what people wanted. People wanted the new. It made 2D animation seem outdated, even though it's not in my eyes at all, but that's what it made it seem like when it came out. In the same way, I don't think 3D graphics make 16-bit dated. I think 16-bit has held up much better than the PS1, PS2 era and all that. But when Toy Story came out, everybody just thought this is the fucking future, because it looked good. I mean, watch Siskel and Ebert's review of the movie. All they talk about is the technical aspects. It looked good. Toy Story looked really good. If that gimmick hadn't paid off, I think we'd be in a different world now. But it paid off in spades. And that's all. And we've never really gotten that back since then. But I remember back then, that's all it was like, wow, Toy Story, wow, the CGI animation, it looks so good. The reflection, Buzz Lightyear's helmet had reflections. I mean, it was just shit you didn't see before. It was new. And there hasn't been many movies since that movie, really, that have shown new. I mean, like, The Matrix is one of the only... There hasn't really been that many movies that have innovated special effects. The same way Toy Story has. Toy Story really changed the game. Yeah, some of them still look good. It depends on the game. I agree, N64 games still look good. I don't even know if we get that many traditional animated movies. I can't remember the last time a traditional animated movie came out in America. Yeah, I was 5 when Toy Story came out. I remember it, though. I had a Buzz Lightyear toy and a Woody toy, and I remember seeing it. That's when you make memories at 5. It wasn't like I was 2. I was 5, and I very much remember going to see Toy Story. I remember the theater being packed. I remember seeing the movie. I remember going to buy toys. I bought a Woody toy and a Buzz toy. I remember kids at school having them. Those are some of my early memories. It's like, it's tied in there with like Power Rangers or anything like that. But I remember coming out of Toy Story, and that's all everybody was talking about around us, was like, wow, we never seen any, like, that was amazing. That's all everybody was talking about, was the animation. I agree, 2D animation is timeless. I mean, I'll review your script, man. Just give me some fucking money on here. I don't care. Give me what you think's fair. How's about that? If you think it's fair, give me that, and I'll review your script. I mean, yeah. I mean, I love Ratatouille as well. I think Ratatouille's a great movie. Big fan. How long have we been going on? Oh shit, you're right. I have not been talking about the box office. Good call. All right, let's go down a little bit. Let's start with Aquaman. Let's see where that's at. Has that changed at all? Not really. It seems like it's pretty much wrapped up. Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse is pretty much done. Won't make 400 million worldwide. Unfortunate. I wish that film had done better worldwide. Domestically, it did fine. Let's see where Happy Death Day to You is at worldwide. 63 million on a $9 million budget. That's a modest success. The Upside continues to be a hit. 105 million domestic, 118 million worldwide. Not doing that well at the foreign box office. Which is weird when you consider the original French film. Although that primarily just did well in France, so I guess it's a similar thing here. I'm going to skip that. Let's go to Green Book, which is just keeps making money internationally. Green Book has turned into a huge hit. $82 million domestic, which is a really good number. Once again, though, I think they should have held up the release of this movie, because I think it's on home video now. I think they would have made, this movie could have made 100 million. But $276 million worldwide, $193 million foreign total. Holy shit. Total comeback for Peter Farrelly. Best Picture winner. But this film, I mean, this film looks like it could make $300 million. With a $23 million budget, even if they put a lot in the marketing, those foreign numbers are impressive. Like, really, really impressive. Alita continues to be a domestic bomb. $1.2 million this weekend. $81 million. Even with the $28 million opening weekend, the movie should have done better. It should have made $100 million. From Robert Rodriguez, El Mariachi. $394 million. I don't know if it'll make $400 million. It's scratching its way there. With that budget and the marketing, there's no way they broke even on this movie. I think they would have had to make $500-600 million. So big disappointment for James Cameron and Rodriguez and all the years spent of that. You know, but it just felt like this was going to happen. I never thought this movie was going to make money. For one, the marketing was trash. The marketing was really trash. I think the big eye thing turned people off. Whether you liked it or not, I think people didn't like it generally. And I don't think people ever really got a sense of the story or the world building with that movie. Also, release date. I mean, they just handled this wrong. Fox did a horrible job handling Alita. The Lego Movie 2 continues to be a major disappointment at the box office, with an $80 million budget, only at $101 million domestic, $171 worldwide. This has not made anywhere close to the Lego Batman or the Lego Movie. Phil Lord and Chris Miller produced this and worked on the screenplay, so this is a big disappointment all around. Captive State, and fuck these movies. I don't care about these. Why do all these movies come out where they come out like a movie like this, where it comes out in like 2,500 theaters? Who the fuck releases this shit? And don't get me wrong, like, Rupert Wyatt, he did Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which I'm a huge fan of that movie. That's my favorite of that trilogy. But still, like, why the fuck would you release this so wide? It makes $3 million. Every weekend it seems like there's one of these movies. Medea Family Funeral is actually doing really well. Should make $65 million. Hasn't dropped off as bad as some other Tyler Perry movies, especially Boo Medea 2 Halloween. How to Train Your Dragon had a better hold this weekend, 36% drop. 135 mil domestic, 466 million worldwide. This will not make the final domestic total of the first or second film. It should be able to make over $500 million internationally, but I would say this is a slight disappointment. Just considering the second film made $621 million, and this one had such a good opening weekend, I thought that this film was going to make $600 million. I am surprised at, not that it's a bomb. It's not. 5 Feet Apart had a decent opening weekend of $13 million in 2,800 theaters. Not a great opening weekend, but certainly not a bad opening weekend. Wonder Park, the animated film, I think this is actually a pretty bad opening weekend. I think $15 million for an animated film, even if it is cheaper animation. Jesus Christ, Matthew Broderick. What happened to you, Matthew? Where did you go? Matthew, where did you go? I think I'll never know. Matthew, don't you cry. They say it gets easier with time. But Matthew, I think you're past your prime. Love him in Election, though. Matthew Broderick in Election, that's his best performance. Everything Orson Welles made is really fucking good. The trial's fucking badass, though. I mean, I'm not shitting on Alita. Like, it isn't making money. I'm not shitting on it. It just isn't. It isn't doing well. They really did not know how to create hype with this movie. Of course, I remember Godzilla 98. I saw that in the theater too. I saw Godzilla 98 in the theater, and I remember thinking at the end with when they're slipping on the gumballs, I was like, "Oh, Jurassic Park." I remember thinking that as a kid. And my parents really liked the movie, and I remember thinking, like, this movie was bad. That's when I started to realize, like, my taste was kind of going off from other people that, you know, we'd go see some generic movie like that or a bad movie, and most people would come out and say, that was good, and I would come out and be like, huh. I don't know how I felt about that. I wasn't old enough to really understand what I was feeling. Really? You like War? Oh, that's the third one. Yeah, Dawn's my least favorite. I'm sorry, War's good too. I actually think Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is a huge disappointment, even though critics loved it. I don't like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Especially after Rise. Rise was like such a big movie for me. Despite James Franco's horrible performance in it. Great movie otherwise, though. Caesar's great. I love the idea that the world won't accept him, so he has to build a new world in his own image. I think that's such a cool science fiction concept. I remember the hype for Godzilla 98 too, like the trailers and all that. That was so exciting. Like, there was so much hype for fucking Godzilla. The poster with the eye, it was like, holy shit, this is gonna be amazing. That's a lot of fish. Oh, yeah, if any characters in the MCU, they become popular. That's just kind of how the MCU works. It was him trying to have his own Jurassic Park, for sure. He did go on Broadway. Well, Matthew Broderick was always on Broadway, though. That's where he started. He was a stage act. That's when he first got attention. He won a Tony for Brighton Beach Memoirs, the terrific Neil Simon play, which was adapted into a movie where Jonathan Silverman played the lead role. He was like the hottest young actor in New York stage back in the 80s. Matthew Broderick was always a theater guy. It's not like he went to theater. He was always in theater. I don't think he ever left. But sucks is when Matthew Broderick is good, he is good, man. Like War Games and Ferris Bueller and Election, that dude can be so good. It's just, unfortunately, he has to be cast in the right role. Like, he's got this, like, opposite end of the spectrum of the Cusack thing. Especially in Election. Phenomenal casting by Alexander Payne. Although Alexander Payne always casts his movies really well. It's like one of his best things is that he's so good at casting. I like the opening of the Godzilla movie with Bryan Cranston, but after Bryan Cranston leaves the movie, I think that movie goes to dog shit. But I do like the first 15 minutes. Yeah, he always was, yeah. I just don't think Dawn had a good screenplay. I think it had sequelitis. I think I knew exactly what was going to happen for the first 5 minutes. I knew what Koba was going to do. And the movie played out. It's like the most cliche, predictable movie ever. You know, when you watched Rise, what was exciting was that arc. Like, that Caesar's this little, you know, he's little, and then he's raising him, and there's emotion, and then he gets bigger, and then they send him away. It's a small movie. That's what I love about it so much. And then it becomes a big movie at the end with the bridge scene, but that bridge scene isn't a big action set piece. It's more emotional. The second one, it was just, yeah, I mean, terrific special effects, good filmmaking by Matt Reeves. But yeah, all the human characters I hated. Did not feel... the third act, it gets a little bit better. I won't act like... Dawn gets better in the third act once he goes back to the house from the first movie. But yeah, all that stuff was just so cliche to me. I think that stuff's so overrated. Koba and all that. I'm not... Koba, no ape. Because I know Rupert Wyatt wanted to spend more time on that movie. Because he said we need to flesh some of this stuff out, and they wanted to rush the production. Now, having said that, The War of the Planet of the Apes is a very good movie and felt like a good continuation. I think Red Letter Media had the perfect Captain Marvel review. Actually. But they kind of always do. They kind of always have the perfect things to say on this stuff. They talked about the controversy great, and then that whole thing about, like, film critics don't matter. We don't matter. That's great. No, I agree. I mean, the Godzilla 2014 looks good. There's no debating that. I mean, that's always been Gareth Edwards' problem. He's a good visual director, but he can't seem to get good, get great performances out of his actors, and he doesn't seem to care about characterization too much. You know? Like, Rogue One's a really good-looking movie, but all my problems with Rogue One have to do with the characterization and the chemistry and how those things are created. And then when it kind of starts to come together in the third act, I feel like a lot of that stuff's Tony Gilroy. Yeah, the first Godzilla... I mean, I think a lot of the Godzilla movies are legitimate movies for me. I think Godzilla 1985 is a very good movie. And I also think Godzilla vs. Destroyer is a very good movie. I agree with you, they do kind of become B movies, and that's the aesthetic, but in the same way, that's how most people see Godzilla, you know? It's hard to go back to that first movie just because the other movies have become so iconic in the general public. I mean, I love Godzilla, though. I'm a huge Godzilla fan. Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius. Rock me, Dr. Zaius. I mean, I didn't dislike Rogue One. It's certainly better than the other fucking movies. Like Solo and Rogue One are so much better than Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. It's embarrassing. I hope King of Monsters good. That's a better director. The guy who did Trick or Treat and Krampus. I hope King of Monsters is good. And I love the cast. Like, Kyle Chandler's in that shit. Are you kidding me? Fuck yeah. Anything with Kyle Chandler. I'm so pro Kyle Chandler. That dude deserves so much work for years, and now he's finally fucking getting it the last few years. Like, go watch Friday Night Lights, which is a show that did not have good ratings. But man, he is brilliant on that show. Kyle Chandler is an ace actor, man. He looks like he's from another decade, man. It's like John Hamm. Like, goddamn, why did it take so long for John Hamm to... That does happen, yeah. If a movie has a political... If it skews one way politically, people sees... I agree with you about Force Awakens. I think Mahler's doing really good on that with his Force Awakens video too. I think did a great point about that there is good things in Force Awakens. There's good ideas. There's good actors. Oscar Isaac is a good actor. Poe Dameron could be a very likable character. That scene in the scene where him and Finn are flying and escaping, that is enjoyable. The tone of it. Them introduce themselves to each other. I love the feel of that scene. I love the way it looks. There's stuff in The Force Awakens that is good and could have been a good movie and could have led to an even better sequel. I mean, I am more sad with that because I think Last Jedi is just kind of like a disaster from the beginning. It's like, well, how do you fix this piece of shit? But Force Awakens could have, you know, if they'd spent more time on that screenplay and not played it so safe and actually made Rey a more likable character and given her more flaws and focused on the Poe and Finn relationship, which is really the chemistry that works. It's unfortunate. And then Last Jedi just shits on all that stuff. But I think a lot of things about Force Awakens are good on paper. On paper, it really should work. The idea of like a rogue stormtrooper joining up with the Resistance and him meeting this pilot, and then Kylo Ren's an interesting idea. Like, he's a Darth Vader fanboy, but he can't be Darth Vader. I think that stuff all is really cool. Some people still rag on Mahler for doing very long 2.5-hour long videos, each separate part of review. Any thoughts? Well, I just disagree. I think his videos are good. I mean, I think if they were shitty videos, they'd have a point. But it's a pretty thorough and entertaining 2.5 hours. Especially the part 2. I think the part 2 for the Force Awakens video he made is like one of his best videos. And I'm glad that he's actually showing nuance in his review. He's not actually just shitting on Force Awakens. He's pointing out that there's some good filmmaking in there. That J.J. Abrams has some competent elements as a filmmaker. I think Kyle Chandler's too old to play Batman, but I would love to see him play Thomas Wayne in a Flashpoint movie. I could get into that. Yeah, no, Finn's a good idea for a character. It really is. And in many ways, I think he should be the protagonist of the story. And I don't think he should have the Force. I agree with that. I think he should be a human protagonist. Rey's really one of just the biggest drawbacks. I mean, that's the problem. Rey's one of the biggest drawbacks of that whole movie. And the trilogy in general. Rey, like, their main character is one of the worst parts. It's because, I mean, I did my pitch for it, but it'd be so much cooler if Finn and Poe were fighting Kylo at the end of Force Awakens and getting their asses kicked than Rey beating him. It's just so much more compelling if Kylo's beating the fuck out of Finn in the woods and he gets saved by, like, maybe Poe flies in and shoots at Kylo or something like that. That's so much cooler than that fucking lightsaber duel that makes no sense. Yeah, they went all Dragon Ball Z with it, like, your anger makes you stronger. Yeah, Finn and Kylo, I agree. Having a history in the First Order, I agree. Like, if Kylo trained Finn, I mean, oh my god, that would be so cool. There's so many cool ideas. I mean, it really should have been about this guy leaving the First Order and then having these emotional connections to people from the First Order. It's even in that deleted scene in The Last Jedi that people recognize. I mean, it sucks. It's like, What a cool idea that, like, he has friends who are still in the First Order, and he worries about them. And he actually doesn't hate Kylo Ren. That's all cool. That could have made a very cool movie. That could have been its own movie that didn't need to have so much attachment to the original trilogy and nostalgia. That could have just been its own standalone movie. I mean, for me, one of the things that really hurts Force Awakens is having Luke, Han, and Leia in it. Because they just fucked that up so bad that I wish they would have just avoided it, and we could have just got its own movie. So forced. Nice. Our powers were over 9,000! I love that he doesn't say 9,000, he does that 9,000! Fucking amazing. Poor Captain Marvel. Only making $800 million. I mean, it's just, I mean, yeah, a lot of it does feel like Kathleen Kennedy, that they didn't, it is bad producing. I don't want to 100% put it on Abrams. I don't want to put it all, like, it's just, there is some bad producing going on, you could tell. I mean, they cut that scene because the dialogue was cringe, but he kept all those other scenes that had horrible dialogue. I mean, he kept all the Canto Bite stuff in the Now the Real Battles one. Like, if Rian Johnson wanted to cut scenes because they had bad dialogue, then he should have cut, like, half the movie. Last Jedi's filled with horrible dialogue. I would have loved more with Finn and Phasma. Yeah, totally. Another good idea that's totally wasted. As I'm saying, those are cool ideas. Phasma could have been a cool character. I don't know what the fuck. I mean, in the trailers, that stuff was exciting, and then it all went to shit. I know Ava DuVernay, she also was in the editing room on that movie. She gave JJ tips on that movie. She did work on that movie. A lot of people don't know that. And I wonder how much of an impact that had. You know they're gonna backtrack on episode 9. There's no fucking way they're not gonna backtrack. I think JJ's like... I think it's very telling that they brought JJ back. He's gonna backtrack the fuck out of that movie. I think he's pissed about episode 8. He will never publicly say it. And I get why. But I think JJ was probably felt the way we do, even though he directed Into Darkness, which in many ways is the last Jedi of that series. But I think he was sitting there like, dude, what the fuck? You just like, because I had all this love built up with the audience because I gave them all this, I gave them nostalgia balls, member berries, and then you do this? I think it's very telling JJ's coming back for the third movie. He should have just cut everything. Is there any good lines in Last Jedi? I can't remember any good dialogue. I remember it all being pretty bad. Maybe there's some cool lines I don't remember. I mean, it is cool Luke saying, like, I will not be the last Jedi. But it's stupid in the context of the movie, but it's a cool line, I guess. Oh, yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. No, poor J.J. Abrams. That motherfucker. I mean... Ava Diversity worked on Force and Gorgeous. She did work on it, yes. She did. Yes, it would be great if she was like a mother figure, yes. Kind of a Nurse Ratched role, where she takes care of them, but she's deep down really kind of a cold-hearted bitch. Oh, no, yeah. Episode 8 leaves you with nothing to do, unfortunately. No, Abrams is really good at starting franchises. That's one thing I give him credit for. He saved the Mission Impossible franchise. Mission Impossible 3, that was the big one that disappointed at the box office because that's when Tom Cruise was in peak at Scientology. But he kept producing those movies. Brad Bird, that was partially... he had influence on that. Brad Bird, now the Mission Impossible franchise is back. He comes in into Star Trek. People love that movie, even if you don't like Star Trek 09. But then, you know, it's a series again. And even though people haven't liked anything really after that, and then he comes in into Star Wars, like, J.J. Abrams is very clever in that. He's a good producer. I don't think he's a very good director, writer, but I think as a producer, he doesn't get enough credit. I think he's very good at that job. And producing is a very important job. And I think if he did, if he focused on that more, being a great producer, and less so I'm nothing but ER references. Come on. It is weird that they gave these scripts a pass. I will say. It is very odd that they were okay with the scripts to Force Awakens and Last Jedi. I don't get it. I don't know how Rian Johnson got that screenplay through a producer. That blows my fucking mind. If I was sitting in a room and I read that script, I'd start laughing. I'd be like, is this a joke? Are you fucking with me? Did you write this as a joke script until you show us the real script? Or is this just the first draft and you're going to change all this dumb shit? I mean, it blows my mind, literally. They have been let down by poor scripts, yes. Very poor scripts, too. They're not even at the level of, like, a Harry Potter screenplay. Which is pretty basic writing. Steve Klove's Harry Potter screenplays. Like, if any of those movies were just as good as, like, Prisoner of Azkaban or something, I'd be like, hey, good job. But no, they're shit. Like, it feels like a first draft, man. It really does. It has all of the markings of a first draft. Yes, he did. He was a hairdresser. Guy produced Batman and worked on Superman Lives for a while with Kevin Smith. What's that guy's name? I know that guy's name so well. He's so famous. I mean, he fucking did Batman. Joe something? Yo, see you, mister. But yeah. Kevin Smith tells great stories about that guy, the giant spider. This giant fucking spider. All right, let's talk about Captain Marvel, man. Let's talk about the captain in the room. Captain Marvel, 55% drop, which was my prediction last weekend. I was right for once. Never right on this fucking channel. 55%, $67 million second weekend. Currently at $264 million domestic, $509 million foreign. It is now at the total of Guardians of the Galaxy 1, which made $773 million worldwide on a $170 million budget. I believe Captain Marvel's budget's like $150 million. So this movie is now at profit point. It has made a profit. I think it probably did so before, but it's definitely there now. Where was it at last weekend? Wasn't it like right under 500 million? Was where it was at. So we're right under 800 million. By next weekend, the film will have already passed $300 million domestic. That's a lock at this point, because you're gonna have to count the weekday box office. Internationally, this should be able to make $600 million. I think it'll end up at $1 billion, but it could end up a little less. This could make like $950 million. That is possible, because you got to think it's still $230 million away from a billion. But I think 350 mil domestic's a lock, and then at that point, yeah, it only needs to make, I don't know, like what, 650. So it'll come in around $1 billion. It's tough to totally say now. But it's already successful. I mean, $900 million would be a huge hit. 800. I mean, it's already a hit. If this was the final total for this movie, if this movie had just made $264 million and $773 million worldwide, it'd be considered a big hit. This is already big hit numbers. Soon it'll pass Thor, Ragnarok, Spider-Man: Homecoming, and it'll be one of the biggest MCU films. The only films it'll be competing with are Black Panther, Iron Man 3, and the Avengers films. That's it. Like Civil War 2 is a Captain America film, but it's kind of an Avengers film, really. So, yeah, and as for a debut film, this is now the most successful. Oh, no, Black Panther would still be the most successful. Although he debuted in Civil War, so is Black Panther his debut movie? I don't know. But still, MCU is riding a high right now. All of the movies. I mean, Thor Ragnarok made $315 million. Black Panther made $700 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp was kind of the weird one. This is already past Ant-Man and the Wasp, but of course it fucking was. But you can see they've been doing very well. Spider-Man: Homecoming made $880 million. Guardians 2 made $863 million. So yeah, with $773 million, this is a certified hit now. When it passes $1 billion, and people say that Disney bought all the tickets and it made no money, that should be fun. Like, hey, it made $1 billion. Disney spent $1 billion. Well, it wouldn't cost that much in tickets, but yeah, the guy who produced Batman was married to Barbara Streisand. He was her hairdresser, and he became a very famous producer. And it's funny, I can't remember his name right now. He produced Wild Wild West. Great head of hair, that guy. Still needs to make 315 between 365 million domestic for me to quit. I mean, you can make fun of the movie all you want, man. I think I'm pro you making fun. John Peters. Yes, John Peters. Huge fucking spider. Well, that Jedi looks pretty in his film. Yeah, Rian Johnson has a good cinematographer. And it should look good. It's a fucking $200 million movie. I mean, it should look like a good... Like, if you spend that much money and your movie looks like shit, like Black Panther, like the CGI in that movie, it's like, fucking retire. Yeah, but there's... I don't know, Jay. I just don't buy into that. The Disney, like, even if they bought 1 million tickets, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And there's that thing. There's numerous people on record showing empty theaters of crap loads of. They released it in like 4,600 theaters. I've seen many big movies in an empty theater. When I saw Infinity War, the theater wasn't that crowded. When I saw a lot of big movies that made money, there wasn't. I mean, like, theaters aren't always crowded. I don't. Yeah, the spiders in Wild Wild West. I don't get this whole conspiracy. And honestly, you're allowed to buy tickets to promote something and boost it up. There's nothing illegal about that. If Disney wanted to buy tickets to help perpetuate the money, that's fine. That's a way to create hype, and it paid off. But there's no way that Disney is the $67 million second weekend. And there's no way that they're the 800 million worldwide. There's just no fucking way. That's insane. These conspiracy theories just never. Everyone I know went to go see the movie. I mean, I have a bunch of friends who saw the movie. You're the Pauline Kael of comic book fans. I think Endgame will make $2 billion. You misunderstand. There were a lot of tickets bought for a given showing, and most didn't show up. For just one? Well, then what does that matter? Like, why are people harping on that? No, it's not illegal to buy tickets. From what I did research on, I looked into it because people were saying that, but if it was illegal, because people have done that to promote shows. They'll do that at a concert, they'll do that with a play. That's common practice. From what I know, to just create hype and stuff like that. I don't think it's illegal. I don't see how it breaks the law. They have the right to do that. I don't think Detective Pikachu will make $1 billion, but I still think it's going to make $500-600 million. I don't think it'll make $1 billion. No, I think it's going to make a lot of fucking money though. Yeah, I think Detective Pikachu is going to make a lot of money. But I don't think it's going to make $1 billion, no. I could be surprised. Maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe it will break out and be one of those movies. But for me, I think the top out point's like $700 million for that, which would be huge. Don't get me wrong. That would be huge. There was a theater manager on record saying one day 25 tickets were bought for each showing that day and none of them showed up. What do you mean he was on record? Like on record like the cops, or he was on record by somebody asked him in a video, or somebody went and talked to him and he said this? Like, what do you mean on record? Like, as a journalist went to go interview him? And 25 tickets were bought for each showing a day and none of them showed up? Like, I don't... Like, people keep bringing this up into it. Like, that's not... That's one guy at one theater saying that? Is there like 100 of these? I don't think I'm underestimating his global reach. $700 million. I mean, how much money do you think it's going to make? if it makes like 200 million in Japan, which is its biggest market, let's say that's the high end, because it wouldn't make much more than that. And then let's say it makes another 300 million. That's $500 million international. And then domestically, is that movie going to make 400, 500 million? I don't think so. I think 200 to 300 million. So 700, 800 million dollars. It is common at football games, isn't it? But I mean, $1 billion just doesn't seem a lot to me. I don't know. I don't think it's quite at that level. I'm not saying that Pokemon isn't fucking huge. Don't think I don't get that, but if the movie makes 500, 600 million dollars international, that's huge. But you can't just rely on the international. Like domestically, it would have to make money. You got home early. Imagine if every theater in America on opening weekend had 20 ghost tickets purses, would rack up the total a lot. $25 tickets every single day, yeah, but is there any proof of this? I'm asking for real proof outside of, you said a guy said this on record, or somebody on Twitter like that. Like, was there an investigation? Did people actually like see the tickets purchased as the receipts? Like, how much evidence is there? Or is this just people said this and they took some photos of an empty theater? Or they reported this? Like, that's what I'm asking. Pays for Peter Travers' review. I mean, Peter Travers, he's quit being a critic years ago. I mean, for all we know, Disney does that with all the comic book news reported it. Well, that's not a reliable source for me. Comic book news is a joke as far as I'm concerned. News reports of empty theaters of Captain Marvel add to movie's controversy. Let's see. Oh, wait, no. The Captain Marvel for my local theater is shocking. Out of 22 showings on Thursday, Friday, oh god, no. Fucking trailer playing. For advanced, who never showed up on Sunday, there were only 4 no-shows for the movie all day. My theater friend manager called me and told me something very interesting. He said for Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday, a great many Captain Marvel advanced ticket buyers never showed up to see the movie. 23 seats were empty each showing despite it being sold out. The manager claimed he'd never seen anything like this in 20 years. Hundreds and hundreds of tickets were purchased online, but the buyers never read to watch the film. The box office totals for Captain Marvel are fake, with Disney or partner padding the numbers. Yeah, but how do people know Disney bought the tickets and it wasn't just people bought the tickets and didn't show up? Or that somebody bought a bunch of these tickets to help make the movie big, because like maybe it was somebody that, I don't know. These are just people on Twitter. Who are these people? Like, who's Just Peel? Like, he just says, I had a theater manager friend call me on the phone. Is there any evidence that Disney actually bought those tickets? Like, it's just a guy, like, taking a video, like, here's my local theater on a Friday night before 10:20, the Captain Marvel showing. Like, that's not good evidence for me. It's some guy on Twitter. It's people posting photos. Like, how do you know that's real? How do you know it's not just people posting photos that they're saying are real? Like, we spoke with a movie theater manager, asked for anonymity. Like, we spoke with a theater manager. Like, I don't know, guys. I'm sorry. That's just not... That's not very good evidence. Like, you could write all of this and there'd be no way to proof check it. Like, there'd be no way to check if this was true or not. I think Shazam will do very well. I think it'll open to like 50 million plus. It probably make about 170, 180 mil domestic and maybe 400 something million worldwide. I could be wrong. Maybe Shazam will make more money. I don't know. Oh yeah, comic book news is extremely untrustworthy. That's what I was about to say. Like they're not legitimate at all. I think you're an asshole if you're calling people liars in defense of Disney. I'm not calling people liars in defense of Disney. I just think they might be lying to get views on their Twitter or their website, and to perpetuate a narrative that they can be part of to make money. I'm not defending Disney, but why would I just believe these people? I wouldn't believe anybody without evidence for anything. Like, I need more evidence than you telling me that I talk to a theater manager. I mean, my friend could tell me that. How would I know? Whenever Blood Money actually wants to do the fucking beef stew, random, he texts me sometimes. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Disney to buy tickets, but what would that find out? All we'd find out is probably that studios buy a bunch of tickets to every movie. You know, like, why was it Captain Marvel? Why was that the one film they did this with? Why didn't they do this with other movies that did bad? I mean, if Disney can just buy tickets and make money, why don't they do it with every movie? Why would any Disney movie ever bomb or get a bad review on Rotten Tomatoes? Like, why didn't they buy more tickets for Mary Poppins Returns and then pay Rotten Tomatoes to give that movie like 95%? Like, so they paid Rotten Tomatoes off to give 78%. Now, and I get that they took the average rating away, but they were going to do that before Captain Marvel. And I missed the average rating. But it's not like Captain Marvel's getting rave reviews. It has like, what, like 78%? Don't you think Disney would have paid for some positive reviews? I mean, are we forgetting that Aquaman, Black Panther made $1 billion? Yeah, and those movies are both, like, in my eyes, are both really bad. I actually think that, like, Aquaman and Black Panther are horrible. So I didn't like Wonder Woman either, and that made a bunch of money. Did they all buy tickets? Like, did Warner Brothers buy all the tickets for Aquaman? I'm just curious why Disney doesn't do this with more properties. Yeah, but aren't there always spam reviews on RT? Like, every movie I remember has, like, spam positive and negative reviews. I've seen spam reviews before. It just kind of gets through their systems, but I don't know if that means Disney's tied to it. Because if somebody can make a case on that and find that out, Disney, there probably could be legal action. But I don't, like, that's the problem. I don't see enough evidence. Somebody would have to show me that Disney bought those tickets. Then I'd be like, holy shit, okay. But it's just an article of a guy saying, I mean, does people have more evidence than this? I'm just asking. This isn't, like, very good evidence. Like, this wouldn't hold up in a court case. That's all I'm asking. Is there more sources than this, than just random websites that say they talk to a theater manager or some guy on Twitter? Because this always reminds me of, like, everyone saw an early screening of a movie and it was great, and then the movie sucks. Yeah, Venom made $800 million. Like, maybe it's just people go see superhero movies. So they cared about that, but they didn't care about Solo bombing? And they didn't buy the tickets for Solo? I definitely think Metroid could make a decent movie, yeah. I think silent. I think making it a quiet film. I think a silent film in space. Sometimes mediocres make money. It happens. It just annoys me that obnoxious people are championing this movie on Twitter. That's what I'm asking. Like, why did they let Solo flop then? Because that hurt Star Wars and the brand. Why did they not buy tickets for Solo and at least make it look like that movie didn't totally bomb? Like if Captain Marvel disappointed and she's supposed to be the new face and it would, I mean, that would have hurt them, but everybody would have saw Endgame anyway. That movie would have still made $2 billion. Well, it's just how many conspiracies are there going to be? So one, there was Disney and Rotten Tomatoes. Then Disney bought the tickets, so none of the money the movie's making is real. And then the movie was going to drop 70% because of this, but it didn't. It dropped 55%. Going to make $1 billion. I mean, is everything with this movie tied to a conspiracy? Because Star Wars has already been replaced. Marvel is the new Star. So they're going to fuck off on the $4 billion investment they made on Star Wars and not make that money because they have the MCU? That doesn't make any sense. Then why would you even make more Star Wars movies? Why would you make The Jungle Book and The Lion King and Aladdin and all that if everything Star Wars is Marvel? Can't they all make money? Wouldn't Disney want all of them to make money? Why would they just like want Marvel movies to make money and nothing else? Disney would move heaven and earth to make Captain Marvel look like a hit. They don't want a Ghostbusters 2016 situation. Would they, though? Like, why is everyone acting like the movie was going to be a bomb? Like, no Marvel movies ever bombed. Except for, like, Incredible Hulk. That's the one that's bombed. I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp made $620 million worldwide. Like, why was this going to be the movie that was going to bomb and make 300, 400 million? Like, I don't get that. They got cocky and thought we'd buy any shit they would sell. I mean, we do. People do buy any shit they sell. That's what happens with, like, comic book superhero movies. People did go see Aquaman and Venom. Like, they're right. People do just go see any shit. I'm just curious. I wanted to know what evidence there was and stuff like that. I'm not like... I'm sorry, I'm just skeptical. Let's look at like Captain Marvel's trailer views. Maybe it didn't have a lot of views or something. That's possible. 42 million views. That's pretty big. I'm not sure. No other MCU movie had a low want to see score. Yeah, but did that really matter? Like, everybody voted down Last Jedi, who hated it and gave it a bad audience score, but the movie still made $620 million domestic. And a lot of people that do that voting or the ranking don't even go see the movie first. They just do it because they don't like the politics associated with the movie or the cast. Not everyone can be bought. It has to be believable. It can't be a 10-10 when all your peers are doing 5. Sometimes they don't have the explicitly ask for a score. It's just implied for access. Yeah, but do you have evidence of that stuff? That's what I'm asking for. Like, this just sounds like a theory like people have. Like, I've always asked for evidence and been skeptical. I do this criticism of the left all the time. I'm just doing it here too. Like, do you guys really think there's enough proof here? Or are you just open to the idea of it and you want more proof? I hope you're not just sold on it right now. Even Last Jedi had a high want to see score before it came out. That's why everything about this movie is suspicious as fuck. Yeah, but what want to see score on Rotten Tomatoes? Is that the only like way we view if a movie has hype around it or not? Is the Rotten Tomatoes want to see thing? Like how accurate is that? Always apologize to SJW if you're also an SJW. Oh. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. I mean, I agree with you guys. What Brie Larson said was bullshit, and I think I mean, I don't know. I just don't know if I buy this thing that Disney put everything on the line for this one movie. Why? I know. Like, why would they not do... I think there's other movies that are more important than Captain Marvel. Like, so what are they gonna do if everything after this doesn't do well with her? Are they gonna just, like, keep buying the tickets? It was the only way we viewed movies is whether they have value. I never said we weren't stupid. No, because you watered down your opposition, which clearly goes against a consistent narrative from all corporate powerful sources and the brainwash machines. It's hilarious. I mean, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't totally buy into it. I'm not saying I'm against the idea of it. Most movies have high 1 to C scores because most people start off positive. The movie had a low 1 to C score and still performed as well as Black Panther. But it's not performing as well as Black Panther. Black Panther opened at $200 million and made $700 million domestic. This is going to end up at about $350 million domestic. And it's not going to make $1.3 billion worldwide. It's not near the success of Black Panther. It's not. It's going to maybe make half of Black Panther's domestic total. I mean, here's what I think happened, because I don't think the general public does care about Brie Larson on the internet. I think most people went to the theater, saw a trailer, and they go, oh, new Marvel movie. Oh, yeah, they mentioned that chick at the end of Infinity War. I'll go see it, because I have to go see Endgame, and I want to know what's going on. Yay, look, I just saw the new Marvel movie. It was good. I'm going to go see Endgame now, because I like comic book movies. Like, to me, that's how, in my eyes, that's how it went down. I know, I've been wondering that too. Why isn't Sonic the Hedgehog fucking animated? I don't know if he'll be replaced as the Flash or not. What does Collider think, though? I'm sure they have a hot take. I mean, yeah, if some leaks came out, don't get me wrong, if we actually had some legitimate leaks that were showing Disney was doing this, I would be on board. We're not quite there yet. I'm all on board if we actually get some more proof. Instead of just some guy on Twitter said that his theater was empty. That's not enough for me. Just because some theaters were empty, that doesn't mean... like, I need more than that. I need, like, people to show, like, look, Disney did this, or... Yeah, nobody gives a shit about... Nobody knows about the Brie Larson thing except people that are very tied to the internet. If you talk to a normal person, they wouldn't give a fuck. They have no idea. It's not impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible at all. I think it's definitely possible that Disney did all of this. I just, you know, I'm not going to say it until I know. Hopefully people get more evidence, though. You know, if people get more evidence, I love Oliver Harper. If people get some more evidence, though, that would be great. And that would be cool to find out that, like, oh shit, Disney is up to this. That would be very cool. And people say to me, like, don't be naive. I think the opposite. Like, you're being naive if you just assume this. like, I'm not naive. Like, I think I'm being very balanced here and, like, just like, well, yeah, is there proof? That's just like, don't be naive. Don't say Disney wouldn't. I didn't say Disney wouldn't do it. I just said that there's not enough evidence for me to know if Disney did or not. That's all. That's where I'm at with it. I don't give a fuck if either way, really. Who cares? Oh god, it does sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. You just made me really fucking scared. Good fucking point, man. Good fucking point. Oh, it's Tarantino. What's he talking about? Thoughts on the new Aladdin trailer? It looks better. It definitely looks better. The Will Smith looks a lot better, and the movie seems to have some fun going on, and I like the parkour stuff with Peter Parker. I love his commentaries with old buddies Richard Jackson and Duncan Casey. Well, I mean, it's obvious that that's what Disney wants to do, is that they want to buy all entertainment and the conglomerate. Of course they want to do that. That's all Disney's ever wanted to do. Duh. Like, other people are just mad because Disney's better at it. and has been better at it for decades. You guys are correct. Britney does have large boobs. When women play Resident Evil 2. Let's just get somewhere positive.
The end of that 3 days of Chicago shooting,
right?
the house was just completely trashed.
I want to start cleaning the house, but I have no energy.
We shot a lot of the movie in Rich Evans' house, which really was nobody's house at the time. It used to be Nanu's house. Nanu is, of course, Rich Evans' grandmother.
What is that thing?
We'd filmed a lot of movies there before. We're just able to get away with a lot of stuff there. It's like my grandmother just did not care. By the time we got around to Gorilla, my grandmother had actually passed on by that point.
And at the time, Rich's uncle was trying to restore the house to try and sell it. So we just destroyed it because we could. And it was a place to film the movie.
We didn't even have to bring in new things to destroy. We just could destroy.
Yes, I very much noticed that Emperor's New Groove has more of a Looney Tunes feel to it. That's one thing I love about the movie. I think in many ways it's Disney's funniest movie. I definitely think, for me, like, Emperor's New Groove holds up so well. I watched it not too long ago, and I'm like, God damn, this movie's fucking funny. It's kind of a surprise how good it is, too, because you think about where Disney films were going at that point. It's shocking. It was like, you know, early John Goodman voice work before we just knew how good he was going to be at that. But it's funny, man. And don't get me wrong, I think it works as like a buddy movie, a chase movie. I think the animation and all that's great. But really, yeah, it's just a really good buddy comedy. And the jokes really hit. And also, yeah, we didn't know how brilliant that Patrick Warburton was going to be as a voice actor. A lot of great things happened with that movie. I mean, yeah, I'm not good with Disney being a monopoly, for sure. I think a lot of us have a problem for that, are worried about that. I mean, I agree with you that no evidence is solid. I agree. That's why I'm not 100% sure on this, because there's not enough, it isn't 100% proof. I would need more proof. I agree with you that just evidence alone, no, because you can have anecdotal evidence. Treasure Planet. Treasure Planet's good. Atlantis, I'm more mixed on. I'm more of a fan. PayPal for script review. God damn, dude, you were hung up on this. You didn't miss anything crazy. Just a bunch of bullshit. I don't know what this turned into, honestly. I'm not happy about the Fox deal either, guys. Let me make that clear. Like, I'm not a fan of Disney owning everything. I think it's really bad for art. But what are you gonna do? They keep making money. This is like turning into that scene at Dogma where Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, Loki and Bartleby go in and they have to kill all the heads of moopies. Clearly Disney. It's funny because Kevin Smith wrote that in the 90s, and now he's like one of the biggest Disney shills. Like, he's got the brown nose of a motherfucker. And then back then he was actually writing stuff that was like against Disney. And he used to be so like, fuck it. Well, why am I acting like Kevin Smith's is not I mean, like, this is a dog shit of a stream right now. This one got out of hand. Alright, well, I guess I'll end this. Do you guys want to hear my pitch for a Superman movie? How about we do that? Okay, FX? I have a Superman movie idea, which I think is what Man of Steel could have been, by the way. I don't really know if you could do this movie anymore. I think Man of Steel ruined this from happening. But, I had an idea for a Superman movie. So, basically, I don't know if any of you are that big of comic book readers. I just assume some of you are. But I have no way of ever knowing this stuff, really. So there was a comic that was very popular in the 90s that was the debut of Alex Ross, the great comic book artist who does the paint work. I saw he was in Pittsburgh a few years ago. There was an art gallery of his stuff, but it was kind of it's really known as like a big coming out for him. And the cool idea about Marvels, the concept, was that Marvels was, hey, Max Landis understands Superman more than Zack Snyder, I'll say that shit. The idea of Marvels was doing these famous moments in the Golden Age. So it would be the first Human Torch, Captain America, and early Spider-Man. It's only 4 issues, the early Marvels that Alex Ross worked on. And it's from the point of view of this photographer. Yes, he also did Kingdom Come, which is kind of its own Watchmen. And easily one of the best Superman stories, Kingdom Come. Kingdom Come is a phenomenal fucking book. This isn't for a Superman comic book. This is for a Superman movie. Although it probably could work as a Superman comic book. But Marvels is great because it's all told from this guy's perspective, who's a photographer and a writer, and he ends up writing a book called Marvels, and then it takes on this meta aspect for Alex Ross that you can't just sell a book of pictures, and then his book's kind of built around images. But his artwork was just so drastic and different and beautiful, it made him a superstar. And he's still a very critically acclaimed artist. But, yeah, I know, he literally says in the video, her and then fades in hero, and I was like, mind blown. Seriously, dog, you wrote Dogma? So, the cool idea of Marvels, which one day I would like to see on the Disney streaming service or something like that, them actually do Marvels as a television show, but use the MCU and tell stories from a ground level. You could have one episode that's all done from an iPhone of somebody getting Spider-Man. You could do another episode with Iron Man, all sorts of stuff, the Hulk, and they're all told from the point of view of somebody who's just normal in the street level. So the cool thing about where Marvels ends up is that he ends up seeing the death of Gwen Stacy, but we're seeing the death of Gwen Stacy from this guy taking pictures perspective. And he has this line where he says, he failed her, they all did. Which is really interesting and kind of the end of the golden age in a way. There's also a Superman book that would be an influence on this called Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb, which a lot of people think Jeff Loeb just kind of shit outside of Long Halloween, but Superman for All Seasons is a really good book. So the name of this movie would be The Man of Tomorrow, which is one of the early things to sell Superman, The Man of Tomorrow. There's even an Alan Moore book that's great called Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which is the end of that era of Superman. I think Silver Age Superman, which is a really great book. It's one of my favorite comics. So my pitch for Superman movie, The Man of Tomorrow, is Superman is the supporting character in this movie. The main character is either Lois Lane or Jimmy Olsen, or both. Now, once again, I think because of Man of Steel, you couldn't really make this movie now. They've overdone Lois Lane and kind of ruined it. But this movie would follow a Jimmy Olsen or a Lois Lane, somebody who works at the Daily Planet. And the movie would just follow them getting their job. Hush is a terrible comic. Them at their job, them paying their rent, all of that stuff. And then all of a sudden, Superman shows up into the story. Either Superman shows up and saves some people, they see Superman, they hear rumblings of Superman, so they get sent on a case to investigate Superman. So Lois Lane or Jimmy Olsen, but let's just say Lois Lane for the sake of this. Although I think Jimmy Olsen would be a great lead character. Lois Lane goes out and she starts to investigate the Superman sightings and who is the Superman character. And some of this goes back to the Donner film. So she's trying to figure out who the fuck is the Superman guy? Where does he come from? And she's doing real journalism. Like, the movie is her going and doing interviews with people. She's trying to get photo sources. She's trying to validate these sources. It's really it's got this All the President's Men feel to it, you know? She's really doing the investigation. She's doing investigative reporting. And Lois Lane at this point in the story is not a top reporter. She's trying to work her way up. I would not make it that Lois Lane's like stable in her job. Maybe her job's even a little bit on the line a little bit. Maybe you could comment on how newspapers aren't really selling anymore. And then, out of nowhere into the story, not out of nowhere, but let's say like after the first act, a new guy comes to work at the Daily Planet. His name's Clark Kent. He's a supporting character in this movie, mind you. I'm not saying this movie is not about Clark Kent. So he comes into the movie, and Lois at first is kind of like, well, what's with this guy? This guy's an awkward, nerdy guy and all that stuff. But, he gets assigned on assignment with her, so he starts coming back around with her. And so him and her kind of start making a bond and all that stuff. But then she ends up getting interactions with Superman. And she actually gets an interview with Superman. This would be very similar to the wonderful scene in the original Superman where she talks to him. And he's like, Lois, I never lie. So she actually gets an interview with Superman. And she gets to ask him some questions like that and find out what's going on with him. And she gets kind of wooed by Superman. So then Lois Lane is kind of in this odd way pursuing this relationship with Superman, even though she's kind of scared of him. And she's kind of just trying to use him to get a story. She's like, well, maybe I can get this guy to come over and hang out with me and I can write all this stuff down and get some photos and all that stuff. Meanwhile, while this is happening, I want to make more videos like that where I talk about something I'm passionate about. She's starting to kind of get won over by Clark Kent. Clark Kent's kind of starting to win her over. She's like, no, there's actually sides to this guy that I really like. So then she gets a little conflicted because she actually likes Clark Kent, but she needs Superman for this story. So there's this, it kind of becomes a love triangle movie, and it turns into something like the Philadelphia story, with Superman being like the Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart being the Clark Kent. So she doesn't really know what to do. So you have these scenes that I think would be very funny where she goes on a date with Superman, and then she goes on a date with Clark Kent. And Clark Kent, the audience, we know that he's the same person, but Lois Lane doesn't know he's the same person. From her point of view. So from her point of view, she's in this love triangle and she doesn't really know what to do. But Clark is ultimately winning her heart. So as the story goes on, more threats start to occur. Let's say a bad guy gets introduced, but really all in the background. Like we see this from Lois Lane's point of view. So like she's watching the news and she sees a bad guy who announces something on the television. So she goes to the scene. So the final half hour of the movie, it would be like a rom-com. It would be. That's what it would turn into. It would be a rom-com. That's what I think. It's a small movie too. This is not like a $200 million movie. At the end, she goes to this final conflict to get photos. Maybe she brings Jimmy Olsen with her. He's her videographer. He's filming it. She's wondering like, where's Clark? And then they go and they film this big set piece, and it's kind of like the Man of Steel ending, except not as crazy. But it's kind of the idea that he had at the beginning of Batman v Superman. But this is when it really turns into Marvels. I'm not a huge Lois Lane fan either, by the way. It makes me think of the third act of Chronicle. I really like how Chronicle, the final fight's all done on iPhones and stuff. So at the end, she goes to do the final Superman to go film this battle going on, and it's all done from like a camera from Lois Lane, from her and Jimmy Olsen. So we're seeing the whole thing from that point of view. So you're getting to see these awesome Superman fight scenes, but it's cut up while her and Jimmy are trying to dodge and hide from collateral damage hauling and not die. You see Superman save people. She gets a shot of Superman catching somebody falling off of the building and laying them down safely, and it's like, wow, that's amazing. So we get like a whole like 20-minute action sequence, but it's all from this point of view of the camera, much like Marvel's. Of course you would want a threesome with that. I would do Brainiac personally, for me. But then Lois is getting more into this, and then she gets Superman saves the day, basically. In this story, Superman saves the day. He saves the world. Everything's fine. And even her investigating journalism, like a part of it would be that like the way we would get the Superman mythos is through supporting Clark Kent being a supporting character. He tells her about Smallville and his life there. We don't have her go to Smallville and all that shit like in the Zack Snyder movies. He just tells her like, oh, I grew up in Smallville. These were my parents. And so we get the final action set piece in the Superman movie, but it's like we've never seen a Superman action scene before. Now, my idea would that it would create a sense of awe because you're seeing it from that point of view of a camera and on a ground level. You're not seeing it, which is why I think it worked better in Batman v Superman, that opening sequence. So Lois gets the story. She gets the best footage of it. She's in the shit. She gets this awesome. I mean, Superman's in the movie. He's in the whole movie. He's just not the focus of the movie, because I think it would be greater for us to see the grandeur of Superman through someone else's eyes. I think seeing I wouldn't want to waste Brainiac either. I agree with you guys. But the idea is to create a sense of awe that you're seeing Superman from her perspective. To reintroduce Superman to the public, you show it through the eyes of someone else. And you see these grand moments. It works so well on Marvels. That's really the inspiration here. That you see the death of Gwen Stacy, but you see it through this guy's point of view and how it affects him. How this affects Lois. And it makes us see the grandeur of Superman. And if she really sees him as the hero and loves him, it would hopefully make audiences see the great things about Superman and love him a little bit more. That he just comes into this life and changes the world. He comes into this person's life and it changes everyone and nobody really knows. And she has a direct link with it. She's the first one to communicate with him. She's the first one to get footage of this kind of stuff. So the end of the movie, it would be like found footage Superman. Yeah, the third act, and the whole movie wouldn't be that way at all. It would just be a lot of the third act would be that way. So she gets this footage. She publishes her story. It makes her famous. This is the story that makes her famous and puts her at the top. The name of the article, The Man of Tomorrow, by Lois Lane. And at the end, she kind of decides that she doesn't really want a Superman. She's getting won over by Clark Kent. And it kind of ends with her on a good side. Now, maybe at the end of this movie, Clark Kent tells her he's Superman. I would prefer if he didn't. Maybe have a final joke that plays up the fact she's like, you know, and they've done this in the movies, but she'd be like, you know, I wonder what you look like without your glasses, you know? And he says something like, well, you wouldn't want to see that. And maybe they go off on an elevator to go get a date or something like that. And then the last shot of the movie is the paper hitting the ground, like the paper in the streets of the city, and it says The Man of Tomorrow. And it's a great shot of Superman, like the head of the article is like the image on the article is Superman saving somebody. It's called The Man of Tomorrow, and that's basically the movie. You could make this movie for like $100 million. And then from that point, if you want to make sequels, maybe then you make Superman more of a main character, and Lois finds out that he's Superman and all that. But it would be a rom-com meets a superhero origin story, but told from someone else's point, that they don't realize the origin and all that stuff's already happened, because we've seen the Fortress of Solitude, we've seen Smallville, we've seen all that stuff. I would like to see the other stuff get fleshed out a little bit more, which is Clark Kent's characterization, which is one of my favorite things in the Donner movie. I would like to see any action scene or Superman doing something heroic. I would really like to see people react to it and feel that sense of awe of Superman's presence, this god amongst us. And I think you could just do a really fun, like, rom-com love triangle and stuff like that. It's sort of like Vicky Vale in Batman 89, except Vicky Vale's not really like the main character in Batman 89. Jack Napier is. And Vicky Vale is just underwritten. In my movie, Lois Lane would be very well written. She would, I mean, and it would be a really likable actress. It would actually, I'm not going to say Emma Stone, but it would be somebody people really like. And you really relate to her. And it's not about like that we follow Bruce Wayne and know he's Batman. We're not going to be following Clark Kent and Superman. We're not going to be following those characters like a Batman 89. We're just going to be following her. And I kind of like the idea of that stuff in Batman 89. I think that stuff's fun. I just think you could do that stuff better. Yeah, I don't think she Man of Steel ending with Lois Lane and Superman. Yeah, I don't think I wanted her to know at the end. I don't want her to know. I want her to, she chooses Clark Kent. She chooses the man because he is Clark Kent. Superman isn't Superman. He is Clark Kent. That's something that's why I don't like that Kill Bill 2 speech. The Clark Kent and all that isn't fake. That's who he is. He was raised, but that's who he considers to be his parents. He feels like Clark Kent. He just puts on this costume almost like a little boy playing dress up and goes and pretends to be Superman. But he's just a guy. He just is Superman because it's the right thing to do. And then, yeah, then the second film, you open up the Superman universe a little bit more. And then maybe you introduce a big villain and Superman plays more of a leading role. And then in the third act, you can go even bigger than that and do something like All-Star Superman. But Superman for All Seasons, she's basically, Superman's been gone, I think, if I remember correctly. And she writes, she goes and talks to people that interacted with Superman and Clark, and she does this like almost like a photo book of them. And that's kind of my idea of it is we go find out people telling stories about Superman. I saw this guy, like she goes to interview somebody and she's like, can you tell me what happened? And we kind of just get flashes while they're telling the story. And they're like, you know, and I thought I was going to die. And then he showed up. The God man showed up. And she's like, what are you talking about? He doesn't even have the name Superman yet. Nobody's really called him Superman yet. Yeah, that Kill Bill speech is retarded. It's like, is that how you see Superman, Tarantino? And someone's telling these stories, and he's like, well, he wears blue, he has red underwear. And she's like, he wears red underwear? And he's like, yeah, I don't. It's like he has like an S on his chest. I think it was an S. It was an S. So she writes that down like S on chest. You know, and then later when she meets Superman, she's like, hey, what's with this stuff? You know, and because she has all these interviews, but she can't really confirm anything or not. She just has all these different sources. She's like, I'm trying to write this article. Can you help me out? And it's really kind of just the start of Clark Kent working it. A lot of it goes back to the first Superman movie, though. Yeah, tell me about the God Man. Why does he wear the cape? Yeah, that stuff could work. That's how I see it. Yeah, tell me about the God Man. He lifted a car? What do you mean he lifted a car? He lifted the car, but when they heard that doesn't make any sense. She doesn't believe it. She's a skeptic, really. But then she starts to get like too convinced, and then she starts seeing Superman. At first, it's kind of just rumors because he's trying to keep his identity kind of hidden. There'd be no religious imagery in my Superman. In fact, it would be a little opposite. It would actually be she's kind of a non-believer. She's skeptical of Superman. She's very, you know, I'm not gonna have it in because you can't say in the movie she's an atheist or anything like, but then she gets won over. It makes her less skeptical and cynical. Let's say even cynical. That Lois has kind of become a cynic, because her life has her, and then Superman kind of changes her life a little bit in Clark Kent to be like, oh, maybe the world isn't a bad place. Maybe people aren't so bad. And I think that'd be a neat little movie just called The Man of Tomorrow. And it's all about that final, like, 5 minutes and what it really represents. That we're now in the dawn of Superman. That he's now Superman. Well, I've heard a theory that it isn't that Tarantino feels that way about Superman. Tell me about the God Man if he eats ass. But that's how Bill feels about Superman because Bill is the villain. So he views Superman that way even though it's wrong. So I can see that. But I still feel like it's just Tarantino writing some jerk-off dialogue. Kill Bill's so indulgent in that way. More so than his other films. No, I didn't read that book. I'm aware of what you're talking about, I believe, but... No, they haven't seen any of that, though. That's what I'm saying. In the early part of the film, nobody's really seen Superman fly. There hasn't been anyone recording it. I'm not saying that she doesn't believe... She believes it once she sees it, but at first there's just people accounting it because he's not... No one's able to get any footage of this guy. He's flying too fast. He gets out of it. He makes sure that people can't see. Like, at one point, maybe he burns someone's phone with his laser eyes or something like that. He doesn't want people to know that he exists. So at first she doesn't totally know if she believes in him or not. Because they're just hearing about it. Like, if you heard about this guy, there's no proof yet. Or it could be a period piece. Maybe it could be a film that takes place in the 80s or 90s before cell phone videos on your phone, so it's hard to film this stuff. So it's just from accounts. So it could be like, she's like, well, how's this any different from UFO sightings? I have no way if this stuff's true or not. Or somebody gives her a photo, but it's like an out-of-focus picture, like a Bigfoot photo. And she's like, really? You want me to really believe this is a guy flying? And she's like, I could tell you how I could make this photo. No, I've not seen that. I read that book. But she just isn't into it yet. She's like, you're putting me on this stupid story about a flying guy? Are you kidding me? From like 2 people who saw him at this thing. At first it was just like one event. Then more Superman stuff starts happening, and then she has to take it seriously. But because Superman likes her, she's able to get the early stuff and get the first interview with Superman and all the stuff and expose him to the world in that way. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, like to fix that issue, maybe it's a period piece. I didn't think about that, but that could fix that issue logically where, because yeah, today wouldn't everyone shoot Superman on their phone if he showed up? But if it's a different era, you couldn't really do that. Even maybe if it's an earlier than that, what if the movie takes place in like the 50s or something like that? That could be really fun. The line is, it's a bird, it's a plane. It's because they're trying to come up with the answers to that crazy Superman with dragging its wing. Yeah, I prefer if he kept his identity secret by the end of the movie too, though. I would love that. At the end, she knows Clark and Superman is two different people. I think that'd be really fun. And she's just kind of starting this relationship with Clark Kent. She gets won over by Clark Kent. Like, you could have these great scenes where Clark Kent and her go on a date. You know, the scenes that the new Superman movies don't do, where they actually go on a date and he tells her about his life and they talk and she tells him about her hopes and dreams and all that stuff. Stuff that you really want. Characterization, a movie. My thinking on it would be a Howard Hawks-esque film. I'm thinking Bringing Up Baby or His Girl Friday. Particularly His Girl Friday. Or I'm thinking a Philadelphia Story, but I'm thinking Howard Hawks meets Frank Capra. I'm thinking Cary Grant as Superman. And a little bit Bringing Up Baby, Cary Grant in the Clark Kent. I'm thinking that kind of tone, that kind of energy, the way the dialogue bounces off. A little screwball, a little bit of a screwball comedy. I'm thinking 40s, 50s Howard Hawks stuff. But as a Superman movie. I think that would be really fucking awesome. It has superhero shit in it, but the movie's compelling because it's just got good, snappy dialogue. It's got strong characters. You really focus on the newsroom aspect and the energy of it. And people competing to get stories. And Clark being out of his element early on. And then slowly kind of showing that he has a real knack for this stuff. That's the stuff that I would like. I agree. I think Green Lantern could turn into a huge franchise. And they're just not doing anything with it. Yeah, but that's my pitch. I would pitch it as a Howard Hawks Superman movie. His Girl Friday, maybe it takes place in the 50s. Probably the 80s, though, is you could get away with. And it's all about Lois Lane finding out who Superman is. And as she finds out who Superman is, we find out who Superman is. But we also find out who the man is, Clark Kent. And then we see it through her eyes. And we get that sense of wonder. And that character change, that she's from one kind of person at the beginning, and then at the end of the movie, she sees the world and the universe in a different way. And she sees that there's the man of tomorrow, that there's tomorrow, you know, that there's always new and exciting things to come on the horizon. All right, let me see where we're at. This was actually a long episode. Yeah, I think we're at the end. This is a long fucking episode. Sorry for how it meandered there for like a half hour with the Captain Marvel stuff. But anyway, Captain Marvel's a big hit. That's where we're at. As for all the other stuff, who fucking knows? Yeah, Green Lantern Corps would definitely be like... is the shit. The Green Lantern Corps should be a just multi-space opera series. It should be so fucking good. Yeah, that would be great. What Happened to the Man of Tomorrow? That would be a great title. I agree. But thank you for watching, guys. If you watch Box Office Addict, you're probably an addict yourself, and I'm not here to help you with that. I want to encourage your addiction. So I'll see you guys for episode 76. This was a very interesting episode. As always, thank you to all the regular people. Crazy, Dragon, Craig, Bathory. I mean, there's too many of you to even mention now. You guys are great and you keep showing up. I appreciate the super chat so much. That's so helpful considering that I forgot to go to work today. How the fuck did that happen? And, Alien doesn't... read the Green Lantern Corps stuff. That's where I would say is read that stuff. That stuff's kind of legendary at this point. I remember getting the rings back then when those came out. Those were so exciting, going to the comic book store to get the rings. I don't care to make a Justice League movie. I just thought it'd be cool to make a cool Superman movie. Who gives a fuck if it's a Justice League movie? I don't care. Alright guys, thanks. Let's end this shit.